Every offseason, CFL teams scout for hidden gems, specialists who could step in right away and make an impact. The 2025 CFL Specialist Showcase, hosted by former NFL kicker Nick Novak, gave scouts a closer look at some of the top kicker and punter prospects ahead of the national and global drafts, alongside some of the top free agents available right now. Now obviously, not every specialist here is going to land a CFL job, but there were some performances that absolutely stood out and a few names that you might want to keep an eye on as we head towards draft day. Before we dive in, if you're into special teams analysis like this, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and ensures that you don't miss future breakdowns. Let's get into it. First, some things to mention. Conditions weren't exactly ideal. There was a pretty strong headwind that definitely made things interesting, and not all participants were experienced holders, but a few guys still managed to stand out in a big way. One of the most consistent performers was Canadian Milan. Kicking in a showcase like this is all about proving that you can be automatic from the distances that CFL teams actually care about, and Milan did just that. He went 7 for 9 on his field goal chart, making 78% of his attempts, the best performance in the entire showcase. More importantly, he hit everything inside of 51 yards, which is where most CFL field goals happen. If you're hitting those at a high rate, teams are going to take notice. Mark backed up his field goal performance with some really solid kickoffs, averaging 64 yards across his 4 attempts, the highest seen throughout the showcase. This guy has been grinding for years, refining his technique with CFL vets like Liram Hawrellahu, getting close to a CFL roster spot before, and after this performance, it wouldn't be surprising to me if he gets another look. Canadian Cole Crossett was another kicker who stood out to me, mainly due to his leg strength and perseverance. He finished the day going 6 for 9 on field goals, and while he did have a rough stretch with a few misses in a row, he locked in and finished strong, making his final 2 kicks. That kind of short-term memory is exactly what you want in a kicker. And his performance from 50 plus yards was truly remarkable. Not only was Cole the only kicker to make 2 field goals from that distance, but he also kicked a 57-yard field goal, the longest seen in the entire showcase. Crossett also charted as a punter, and while his performance wasn't quite as dominating as some of the other participants, it's worth noting that he had one of the most impressive punts of the event, showing off his huge leg by launching the ball 56 yards downfield and recording 4.76 seconds of hang time. He's got the ability to hit those massive punts, it's just about doing it consistently. If he can add that element to his game more regularly, he becomes even more valuable as a dual threat specialist, one of those rare, true kicker-punter combos. Then there's the UK-born Ruben Moxham, who is easily one of the most fascinating specialists here. This guy was a professional rugby player before even thinking about football, and in just a year, he's gone from never playing the sport to working with Nick Novak and Edmonton's Dean Faithful, rapidly developing into a legitimate CFL prospect. He had a solid showcase here too, and while he did miss from 39 yards, he rebounded to hit 3 straight from 42, 45, and 48, and then launched a 54-yarder, the second longest make of the day. On kickoffs, Moxom demonstrated very impressive hang time, averaging over 4 seconds of hang across all of his attempts, with his best attempt being a 61-yard kickoff with 4.2 seconds of hang. It's pretty wild to think how much he's developed in such a short time, and he's only going to get better as he gains more experience. If there was a clear-cut top punter at this showcase, it was James Evans. Originally from New Zealand, Evans had never even stepped foot in the US before committing to Indiana, but over 4 seasons he became one of the most consistent punters in school history and even played alongside Canadian quarterback Curtis Rourke. During the showcase, Evans punted 8 times for an average of 49 yards per punt, with 6 of those traveling over 50 yards. He recorded the highest average yards per punt, the second longest hang time per punt, 4.4 seconds, and all while keeping his average operation time at 1.4 seconds from hand to foot. His combination of power, efficiency, and accuracy makes him a top-tier CFL prospect, and if a team needs a punter, he's got to be near the top of the list. Canadian Ben George had a really solid showing too, and was probably the second best punter at the event. He was the only punter who didn't have a single attempt go under 40 yards, and he had the second highest overall average. He punted 8 times, 3 of which went over 50 yards, with his best ball going 54 yards with 4.26 seconds of hang. George also averaged a respectable 60 yards across 4 of his kickoff attempts, with his best ball traveling 64 yards with just over 4 seconds of hang time. If Ben can increase his hang time while still maintaining the distance of his punts and kickoffs, it would increase his draft stock even more. The third punter I'd like to highlight is Australian Alex Mastromano, and while he didn't have the biggest leg, he did finish with the best hang time in the entire showcase. He averaged 42 yards per punt, but had a very impressive 4.5 seconds of hang, including one with over 5 seconds, the only one in the showcase to hit that mark. Mastromano has been consistent for years at Florida State, where he played in over 50 games and set the school's all-time records for total punts, punting yards, and punting average. His 49.3 yard average in 2024 was the best across the entire NCAA, and his ability to limit returns was a big part of his game. That skill set definitely translated here, where he showed quick operation time and great hang time despite dealing with that pesky headwind I mentioned earlier. Finally, I'd like to mention Canadian Eric Moxom, who went 5 for 9 on field goals during the showcase. While he wasn't able to make a 50-yard field goal during his charting session, he did recently set the RSEQ's all-time longest field goal, recording a 56-yard field goal during his 2024 season. Eric also had the biggest kickoff of the day, good for 70 yards with just under 3.8 seconds of hang, which should definitely get him some attention. Overall, there were a lot of strong performances at the CFL Specialist Showcase. Not every kicker or punter had a perfect day, but the conditions weren't easy and plenty of guys made a strong case for themselves. Milan was the most reliable kicker, James Evans was the best punter, and guys like Cole Crossett, Ruben Moxham, Ben George, Alex Mastromano, and Eric Moxom all flashed some serious upside. We'll have to wait and see if any CFL teams come calling, but based on what I saw, there are definitely a few names in here worth keeping an eye on. With all of that said, I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you're into this type of content, hit like and subscribe for more special teams breakdowns. If you really want to help the channel grow, leave a comment and watch another one of my videos. It really helps. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.